How does a country go from complete isolation to a global powerhouse? Not just once, but over and over again. It's an incredible story. Japan's history is this wild ride of radical reinvention, filled with samurai warriors, divine emperors, total isolation, and then, boom, explosive modernization. So let's get into it.
All right, so we're going to break this amazing journey down into 5 main parts. We'll start with how the nation was first forged, then dive into the age of the samurai. After that, we'll look at a period of unification and total isolation, followed by its collision with the West, and finally, its path through war to become the Japan we know today. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a story of how Japan became, well, Japan. Let's go. Okay, Chapter 1. We're going way, way back. I'm talking tens of thousands of years ago. We'll start with the very first people who set foot on the Japanese islands and see how they went from scattered tribes to a unified nation ruled by an emperor. Just to give you a sense of scale here, look at these dates. The Jomon period, famous for its super unique pottery, lasted for something like 12,000 years. That is an insane amount of time. But then, everything changed. The Yayoi people arrived, and they brought with them tech that would completely rewrite the future of the islands. And here's Japan's first massive transformation. You had the original Jomon people, these amazing hunter-gatherers, masters of pottery. Then the Yayoi arrived from the Asian mainland, and they bring rice farming and iron tools. This was a total game changer. Suddenly you can support way more people. The Yayoi population just explodes, and over time, they mix with and eventually overtake the Jomon, laying down the groundwork for the Japan we see today. I love this quote. Think about the guts it took to write this. At the time, China was the superpower. And here's Prince Shotoku writing to the Chinese emperor, basically saying, hey, I'm the ruler of where the sun rises, and you're the ruler of where it sets. It's not just a greeting, it's a bold declaration of equality. And this is where the name Nihon, or Japan, the land of the rising sun, comes from. A national identity is starting to form. But this kind of courtly power wouldn't last forever. All right, next up, the age of the warrior. So while the emperor and his court in Kyoto are busy with art, poetry, and fancy political games, something else is happening out in the countryside. Power is shifting. A new kind of warrior class is on the rise, the samurai. And these guys are about to run the show for the next 700 years. So after a massive civil war, the winning warlord Minamoto no Yoritomo gets this title, shogun. And this is a huge deal. It basically creates a 2-tiered system. The emperor is still in Kyoto, he's still considered divine, a god on earth, but he has no real power. The shogun, he's the one with the army. He's the one actually running the country. This sets up a military government, the shogunate, that will be the real power in Japan for centuries. So the new samurai government is just getting settled, and then the ultimate threat appears on the horizon. We're talking about Kublai Khan and the Mongol Empire, the biggest, baddest empire on the planet at the time, and they decide they want Japan. So they launch not 1, but 2 absolutely massive invasion fleets. And what happens next is the stuff of legend. Both times, just as the Mongol fleets are about to land, a massive typhoon rolls in and just obliterates them. The Japanese called these storms kamikaze, or the divine wind. It felt like the gods themselves were protecting Japan. But here's the twist. Winning was almost as bad as losing. The cost of getting ready for these invasions completely bankrupted the shogunate. It weakened them so much that it kicked off another round of civil wars. So Japan falls into 100 years of pure chaos. It's called the Warring States period, and it's basically just warlords fighting each other constantly. But out of all that bloodshed, 3 incredible leaders are going to rise up, put the country back together, and start a long, long period of peace by locking the doors to the rest of the world. And you can really see how it happened in 3 steps. First, you have Oda Nobunaga, this brilliant and brutal innovator who starts the process. When he's gone, his best general, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, basically finishes unifying the country. But the guy who seals the deal is Tokugawa Ieyasu. He wins a massive, decisive battle and creates a new shogunate that's going to last for more than 250 years. So to make sure nobody could challenge their power, especially not foreign powers with new ideas and religions, the Tokugawa shogunate slammed the door shut. They started the Sakoku, or closed country policy. For over 200 years, pretty much no one gets in and no Japanese person gets out. But what's fascinating is that inside this bubble, Japanese culture just flourished. This is the Edo period, where we get things like kabuki theater, those iconic woodblock prints, and haiku poetry. It was a long, peaceful era, for sure. But here's the question, right? How long can you really stay sealed off when the rest of the world is changing at lightning speed with industrialization and steam power? Yeah, that bubble was about to burst.
And that brings us to our next chapter. The outside world didn't just come knocking, it came kicking down the door with giant, smoke-belching warships. This moment is the trigger for probably the fastest, most insane transformation in Japan's entire history. It's a sprint from a medieval society to a modern industrial empire.
Can you imagine? After 200 years of isolation, you look out into the bay and see these massive, steam-powered American warships. The black ships, they called them. It was a complete shock to the system. The shogunate had samurai and swords. They had no answer for cannons and steam engines. They were forced to open the country. And that humiliation just completely destroyed the shogun's credibility.
And this led to a flat-out revolution, the Meiji Restoration. This wasn't just swapping out one leader for another, it was wiping the slate clean. Out goes the shogun, out go the samurai as a class. In comes the emperor as the head of state, a modern army with rifles, and a whole new system of government. The motto is basically, modernize or be colonized. They saw what was happening to their neighbors and decided, not us.
And boy, did they modernize fast. The results were just jaw-dropping. In a ridiculously short time, Japan builds this powerful, modern military, and they immediately put it to use. First, they beat China, their massive neighbor. Then, they sign an alliance with Great Britain, a first. And then, the one that shocked the world, they go to war with Russia, a huge European empire, and they win. Japan was now officially a world power.
But, as we'll see, that newfound power and ambition would take Japan down a very dark road. In our final section, we'll look at how militarism took over, the catastrophe of World War II, and then another incredible rebirth, from total devastation to an economic superpower.
So in the 1930s, things take a turn. The military becomes more and more powerful within the Japanese government. Fueled by nationalism and a desperate need for resources, Japan starts expanding aggressively across Asia. This leads to an invasion of Manchuria, then a full-blown war with China, an alliance with Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, and finally the attack on Pearl Harbor, pulling the U.S. into World War II.
Following its surrender in 1945, Japan was occupied, and this brought on another round of absolutely revolutionary change. The emperor had to announce he wasn't a god, the military was totally disbanded, and a brand new constitution was written. It turned Japan into a democracy, gave women the right to vote, and famously, in Article 9, it renounced war forever.
And what happened next was nothing short of a miracle. Just look at this growth. Under the protection of its new alliance with the U.S., Japan pivoted. It focused everything on manufacturing, technology, and exports. The economy didn't just grow, it exploded. Out of the ashes of war, Japan reinvented itself yet again, becoming the second biggest economy on the planet.
Of course, that crazy boom didn't last forever. The 90s brought a huge economic crash and a long period of stagnation. And today, Japan is grappling with some serious challenges, especially its aging and shrinking population. But at the very same time, it's become a new kind of superpower, a cultural one. I mean, anime, manga, video games. Japan's cultural exports are everywhere, and that's a huge part of its identity now.
So when you look back, from ancient tribes to samurai warriors, from total isolation to a global economic and cultural giant, Japan's story is just this constant, relentless cycle of reinvention. It's an incredible display of resilience and the ability to adapt, which, of course, leaves you wondering, what's the next transformation going to be? Hey, if you enjoyed that deep dive, we've got a whole playlist of these quick, concise country histories you should definitely check out. And if you want more explainers like this one, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.